Did Spencer Lee really affect Thomas Gilman's decision to leave Iowa, or is that just a bunch of hawkwash? Well, let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name's Josiah, and welcome to Fanco Wrestling. And on this channel, we talk all about wrestling news, tips, and lifestyle. And today, we're talking about the fact that Thomas Gilman tweeted out that he is leaving Iowa City and heading to State College. This came out, of course, just a couple weeks ago on Friday, April 10th, when he tweeted this out. And I'm going to be telling you some of the reasons that people believe that Thomas Gilman left Iowa Hawkeyes, why he left the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, and what the legitimacy of each of those is. So, first of all, if you're unaware of who Thomas Gilman is, Thomas Gilman, of course, is the Iowa Hawkeye who wrestled for them for 4 years at 125 pounds, three-time All-American, but most recently, most notably, he's the 2017 World Silver Medalist and two-time World Team Member. Of course, he's training for the Olympics next year. If they were supposed to be this year, he was training for them at the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, but he is training for the Olympics next year in 2021. And he's training at a different facility now at the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. Now, this started out just within the past year or so ago, whenever Thomas Gilman actually made his own solo trip to Russia, and he said this was eye-opening to him. He saw different ways of doing things, different ways of training, and then from there, he kind of began to look at a couple of different places. And I'm getting this information, if you're curious about this, I'm getting this information from a couple of interviews I've read, a couple of things I've watched. Links to all those can be will be in the description below. So from there, I said Thomas Gilman was looking at a couple of different places for where he would be wrestling in the future. And, he was looking kind of all over the country, but he wasn't really accepting, people's applications. He wasn't just opening up saying, who wants me? He was looking at these different places for what was best for him to train. One of note, of course, was Navy with Colette, where his future brother-in-law actually is, with Mike Evans. That is his future brother-in-law. And what he said here, and what I think is just a great Thomas Gilman quote, is he said, I want to put myself in the best position to be an Olympic gold medalist. Not saying I couldn't do it here, of course, talking about Iowa. Not saying I couldn't do it anywhere else. I'll do it in my basement. So, that's just the type of mentality that Thomas Gilman has. He is that type of guy who he thinks he can train, he can do this anywhere he wants. So, what are the four reasons? What are some reasons that people believe Gilman left the Hawkeye Wrestling Club? Well, I actually have four reasons why I believe that he did leave. The first of those reasons is money, money, money. That's why people thought Gilman may have left Iowa, is for money. Now, he said straight out, this is not about money. It's more about the, quote, purity of the sport. And he's kind of saying that, he's not a sellout. He's not just going to go where the money is. He's going where the training is best for him. And personally, I believe that, full-heartedly from him, listening to him talk about that, listening to him say that, and just looking at the facts, Iowa and Penn State are two strong programs, two massive universities that have the money, they have the funding behind them. Could Penn State have offered him a little bit more? Maybe, but both of these programs have a bunch of money. Gilman even said himself that if that was the issue, he could have just went to Brand straight up and said, look, I need some more money. I want some more money, and they could have taken that out. He kind of said, what Gilman said actually, which I found very interesting, he said, I'm not loyal to any one program now. I'm loyal to getting better at wrestling. And that makes a lot of sense from where he's coming from. He's looking to be that Olympic gold medalist. That's his goal for next year. That is his goal. And he even said, he's taken care of at Iowa, and that it's just it's a parallel move for him, but a different training circumstances. Now, the second reason that people believe that Thomas Gilman left Iowa, and yes, this is a big one, is Spencer Lee. Spencer Lee is the guy at Iowa right now. Of course, the 125-pounder for the Iowa Hawkeyes, two-time national champion Spencer Lee is also training to win an Olympic gold medal, and they're at the same weight. They're at 57 kilograms for the Olympic trials, and yeah, that's got to be a little bit tough. Now, Gilman has said that he has trained with him in the room, which isn't, that surprising, the fact that they've trained together, but Is this true? Did Spencer Lee really affect this move? In my opinion, it had to have at some point. And I'll get to what Gilman said, but it had to have affected him in some way. You see this other guy training for these in the same room as you, have the same goal as you, and your exact same spot. Yeah, it's going to have some sort of effect on you, some sort of impact. But what Gilman said is actually Spencer had as much to do with it as money did. So zero. Spencer Lee was not an effect on this. He had no impact on it. It has nothing to do with Spencer. He also said that, look, this is my town too. This is my home too. And if I want to stay here, I would have stayed here. This is not about that. The other thing here, of course, is, talking about other guys leaving, is one of the coaches in Mark Branch, who was a coach for the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, who left, went to Arizona State. And what Gilman said is that he felt like he didn't have a guy in his corner. Tom Brands, Terry Brands, they're loyal to what Gilman said. They're loyal to the college guy, which makes sense. They're loyal to the guy at the time, and that is Spencer Lee. And Gilman said he has no hard feelings about Brands. He's still friends with them, still thinks they're great people. This is just the circumstances as to what they are, and do I believe that there was some effect? Yeah, probably, but Gilman says no way, this did not impact his decision at all, and understandable. Now the third one, which was a big one, and I think probably what I've been kind of leading up to this, is that they're different training partners, new training partners at the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. And this just makes total sense. I mean, from everything that, I've said so far and what Gilman has said about going to Russia, training in different circumstances, traveling the world and seeing the different things that happen, going to different RTCs, different programs, and seeing how they're run and what the practices are like there, it makes total sense that he's going somewhere else. You saw this happen just last year with Cael Snyder moving from the Ohio State RTC to the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. And, the other thing is, big training partner for him, of course, is Zane Rutherford. Zane Rutherford also looking to win an Olympic gold medal, of course, though at a different weight. Zane Rutherford and Thomas Gilman are actually friends, and they've talked about this multiple times, the fact that they're friends and they get along, which is kind of funny. And the story that Thomas Gilman told the first time discussing this was that he was not sure how he was going to feel about Zane. The two were on the world team together back in 2017, and they also wrestled together at the Spanish Grand Prix whenever they roomed together, and they were not sure how they were going to feel about each other, considering they're both coming, right out of college. One guy from from Penn State, one guy from Iowa, and those are typically programs that clash. And considering the fact that Thomas Gilman is Mr. Iowa, he looks at you, and if you're from any other school, you are the enemy. And of course, Zane Rutherford was one of those guys, even though they weren't at the same weight. But it turns out that these two guys just have a great friendship, and they're both adventurous. They both have many similarities, and now they have a lot of different training regimens that they can work on together. And not only Zane Rutherford, who is, the 2019 world team member, you also have David Taylor, who you can learn from, world champ, Cael Snyder, who I already mentioned, an Olympic champ, Bo Nickel, U23 world champ. And although they're all at the same weight, you can still learn a lot from each of these guys and take different things away from how they're training. So, Zane Rutherford is a big part of this, and as well as, just different training partners. And the next thing, in the fourth reason why, is that Thomas Gilman wants to start a family. He wants to start a family close to actually where his fiance is from. This is what Terry Brands has actually talked about in an interview. Gilman's mentioned this a couple of times too, is starting a family. Now, Gilman is originally, his hometown's listed as Council Bluffs, Iowa, but he did actually wrestle in high school in Nebraska state champ, four-time Nebraska state champ. But his fiance is actually from Enola, PA, which if you're familiar with Enola, PA, it's kind of close to Cumberland Valley, which is where his fiance is initially from. And State College and Cumberland Valley are very, very close to each other. I mean, within an hour or so. And Terry Brands has said that, this is good for him, good for Thomas, good for wanting him to start this. He even said, I love that guy. He's a warrior and he's tough. And I think something that a lot of people forget is that there are other aspects to a person's life. yes, Thomas Gilman is 100% in on wrestling, but he's also getting married soon. He's also looking to start a family. He's also looking for other things outside of wrestling, which is very important. And I think that people forget that sometimes. Now, personally, I believe that Gilman made the right decision to expand his horizons, but we won't know until the Olympic trials next year. And listen, although Gilman's gone, there's still one Hawkeye in the room who gained another year of eligibility in college. And if you're looking to learn more about that, make sure that you click the link right here on the screen that will take you to that video so you can learn more.